Everyone, and welcome to this live DNSports Podcast. I'm David Moriarty. Sorry for the slight delay to tonight's live. A couple of problems, but we're over them now. Tonight's guest is former Kerry All-Ireland winning captain Fionn Fitzgerald. So I'm just going to add him now. Hi Fionn, how are you?
How's it going?
Not too bad, no, not too bad. Thanks for coming on.
No panic, just 1 second here now.
No bother.
I just hold it here.
How are you doing anyway?
Are we good to go?
All good, all good. I suppose first and foremost, thanks very much anyway for coming on this evening.
No problem, David. No bother.
I suppose could you talk to us maybe about I know it was a tough ending this year for Dr. Crokes, but could you just talk us through maybe the good year that it was in the end?
Yeah, I suppose it was a positive year, really. It was a really enjoyable year, but probably came to a kind of a hard finish, all right. That game went extra time up in Newbridge against Ergel Kieran, but yeah, we had a good year. Up to then, we won the club and the county, and we certainly we certainly had a lot of good days out. But I suppose at the end, when you lost like that way, it probably was a little bit of a bitter pill to kind of stomach for a while, particularly when you didn't have a chance to bounce back. But I know we're well back up and running at this stage again, and looking forward to the new season with the new rules and all that. Like,
That's the job. That's the job. I suppose kind of going back to your kind of earlier days and kind of starting off with the Crokes and everything like that. Would you ever expected that you would have achieved what you have achieved, however many years later?
no, probably not. No, absolutely not. I suppose like anything, you would have enjoyed my underage kind of career with Crokes and all the other teams and bits and pieces along the way. But I suppose at the end, to even maybe win one county championship would have been brilliant with Crokes. That would have been always been maybe a target. So we definitely did very well there. And obviously then with Kerry was great to knock the time I did there out of it as well. So yeah, you just kind of, you know what, you live in the moment really when you're playing. But it certainly I suppose has been great. Yeah, absolutely.
I suppose I know it's probably going to be a bit of an obvious answer now, but what would you say was the kind of highest point for yourself playing with the Crokes?
I suppose undoubtedly it was winning the All Ireland that time. Yeah, that would have been huge. Particularly I suppose, and we kind of lost quite a bit. We'd lost at semi final, was it 3 or 4 times at that stage? So there was probably an element of feeling like, are we ever going to get there? Like, so that's why that was probably even extra special. And then like there's various other ones along the way, county championship, including the one we won last year was a nice one too. But the All Ireland I think was special because we kind of we struggled to get that far so many times.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose, look, as you say, kind of getting over the line in 2017. I know even after that, you fell short. I think another time after that, but look, it was always a great one to have. Great one to have in the pocket.
Yeah, definitely. Like winning the club one at that level it's so difficult, as we saw again this year. So you like just to get over the line at all. There's a couple of clubs there who've done it a number of times, and it's an incredible achievement in hurling football. So it it's a nice one because I suppose they're your buddies and they're the people you spend most time with and have grown up with. So there's something extra special about that for sure.
I suppose kind of moving on to inter-county level. You played for Kerry from, was it 2013 to 2018?
2013. Yeah, well, I got called in 2012. I was in the panel, but my first start would have been 2013 onwards. Yeah, so that's when it started. Yeah, exactly.
What would you say was I suppose like it must have been a very, very proud moment for you to put on the Kerry jersey for the first time.
It was, yeah, which certainly was. 2013 was a reasonably good year, and that we came up short in the semi final against Dublin in a great game. But I kind of think it stood to us well for the following year. But Yeah, it was super. Yeah, of course. Sure, like the opportunity, and at that stage, it was probably the tail end of a lot of we'll say the team of the noughties. A lot of those great players. They were coming towards the end, so I got a chance to play with a lot of those for a few years, which was a nice little bonus.
You kind of touched on it there a small bit there about kind of standing tea for the following year. I suppose, look, the big win in 2014, that must have been an unbelievable moment for yourself, and I suppose the Crokes as well, because lifting it with Kieran Larry must have been unbelievable altogether.
Yeah, it was. I suppose when you look back, I know David, even it probably been probably taken a little bit more because sometimes when you're playing, obviously you've some degree of enjoyment and appreciation of it. But even when you look back on it, it was brilliant. Yeah, it was probably, I suppose, from the outside looking in, a lot of people would have felt it was unexpected or whatever. But as I said, I thought we kind of, we had a reasonable attempt in 2013, and probably just needed to kind of tweak a few little bits and probably learned a little bit. Sometimes you learn a bit more from losing than winning, and I think that the season itself then was an unusual one because we were struggling in the league, and then we just basically got on a roll after kind of a big win really down in Cork, and that kind of kicked us on, and then obviously the big games in Mayo was like they could have gone either way. And after that, then I suppose that we got into the final against Donegal, and it was probably a little bit more of a tactical affair, really. But we got the chance to go there, and we had a great time, and then probably the following year, then we got back to the final, but we probably weren't at the same pitch or level that we had been previously the year before, and I think Dublin probably were just a little bit better than us that year.
Yeah, I suppose kind of touching a bit more about that 2014 final against Donegal, I suppose it was definitely a very, very cagey affair. How mentally kind of draining was that for you? I know, look, getting over the line in the end was the most important thing, but kind of after the end, you must have been wrecked after it.
Yeah, I suppose it was a very different type of game to the semi-final, the two games previously, because they were what I'd probably consider to be quite chaotic against Mayo. They were all action. There was just so many different like parts of the game, and sideshows and everything. Whereas the Donegal game was probably a bit more of a slow control, kind of maybe like a game of chess almost to an extent, between both of us, because we were both kind of fairly tactically set up or organized. And it was, I think both of us probably didn't perform to the level that we would have wanted to. Really, we just probably were a little bit more patient and hung in there towards the end. The probably the emotional high of the two semi-finals, they obviously had a huge one against Dublin, and ourselves. I think we both struggled to get to the pitch of that level of performance again. But we probably, yeah, we probably just used a bit of patience really, and maybe there with extra experience there with a lot of the older guys there towards the end of the game that really helped us kind of maybe run down the clock and so on. But it wasn't like a convincing win or anything. But at that kind of stage, you're just looking to get over the line, whatever way it happens. Like.
Yeah, of course, of course. I saw recently on a podcast, I think Bubbles Dwyer, the former Tipperary hurler, was talking about kind of playing the intercounty hurling, and he said kind of by the end of it, he was nearly kind of relieved to come out of it because of, I suppose, maybe the pressure that he put himself under or the pressure that he felt around him. I know other kind of intercounty players kind of have obviously different thoughts in and around it, like, but well, how would you feel about that kind of standpoint? Would you agree with that at all?
Yeah, I think at different stages, there's definitely merit in what he's saying. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I suppose it probably comes back to the individual, but everyone probably puts a good bit of pressure on themselves, and at different stages, if it's ongoing for years and years, you probably it can come a little bit more, I suppose, a weight on your shoulders, or maybe it doesn't let you play as freely as you would have liked. And I would have had kind of little start probably periods of that towards the end of my career, and probably the enjoyment wasn't as good. So I think a lot of intercounty players will probably relate to it at some stage. Even the very best. Um, for various different reasons. Like at the end of the day, enjoyment equals generally good performance. So you're trying to kind of get that state of enjoyment or whatever, to an extent, but like you're not going to get that all the time. So it's probably about writing it out as best you can. And then for some people, it's probably just not it's not working for him or whatever. And I think that the intercounty sees, or the intercounty kind of whole setup, it is all consuming, and there is pressure involved. But I think for most people, they enjoy that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I suppose kind of talking now about a bit more about Sunday's game. Obviously, that replay of 2014. How do you see it going?
Well, I imagine it'll be probably quite a different game, obviously, to that game, because obviously the new rules have changed it. Even if this game was last year, it'd be very, very different, I feel. Like both teams are scoring very highly. Obviously, look, going looking at the last two games in particular for both teams. Um, like Donegal really let it all hang out really in the semi final, and Kerry probably are a little bit more impressive in the quarter final, but we're very, very solid in the semi final as well. So, like, first of all, you'd imagine there's going to be a higher scoring game, and like our game that time was at like 13 points to 2-9 or something like that. Like, so that's relatively low scoring really. So that's one thing I suppose. I think that'll be apparent. Probably it'll be a faster game as well. I suppose the new rules have lent itself towards the game being a little bit more frantic, chaotic. That control aspect has probably gone out of it a little bit more, so that in itself lends to the game being a little bit more stop start, or sorry, not stop start, free flowing rather. Um, yeah, like it's hard to know. It's a really really tight one to call now, because like I would have felt Kerry, I was confident enough going to the semi final, but this one now is certainly another couple of steps up. Even for Donegal, they won't have played a team like Kerry, I don't think either. So both of them are kind of feeling each other. There'll probably be an element of feeling each other out a little bit at the start. For both sides, Kerry played in the league first game of the year. I think Donegal are well down the tracks at that stage, so I don't think there's a huge amount to read into that. But yeah, they're both teams are bubbling nicely now, so that's going to be interesting to see. Like, I mean, from a Donegal point of view, like, can they go up a number of other levels based on the semi final? Possibly. Um, sometimes would they be better off getting a bigger or a better test? Time will tell. Like, but I suppose one of the things about Donegal is I think they're quite balanced around the field. They've no, not that they don't have out superstars, because they certainly do, like some Michael Murphy, but they probably have a very, very balanced team throughout, um, literally all the way through. So I'm from that point of view, I think that Jim McGuinness has molded a very strong kind of team. So have Kerry, but in some ways, there's probably a lot of new personnel in this year. So Donegal have probably had a little bit longer to be, they've been at it longer building that team. But I think Kerry's players, the types of players they brought in, are very quick to adapt and slot in, if that makes sense. They're very they seem to have slotted in really really well, and I think that's going to be a bonus. And then Kerry obviously have been down a lot of players with injury, and it seems like they're going to get a lot of them, if not in the position to start, certainly to play in some capacity. So Kerry are probably going to be the strongest they've been now, and maybe, I don't know, most of the championship.
Yeah, I think I suppose a lot of people would kind of say that Kerry have been kind of, I suppose, slightly lackluster kind of in this year's kind of entirety of. I know they won the league and things like that, but the league was slightly all over the place. But they really came into their own really, especially in the Armagh game and then in the Tyrone game. I think. Whereas Donegal have probably been in a more consistent level throughout the year. Would you read any bit into that?
Into to Donegal being a bit more consistent, is it?
Slightly, yeah.
Yeah, that there's no slightly. It's fairly black and white. Donegal have been very consistent, in fairness to them. Bar that Tyrone game, really, they've had no blip, and you know what? Probably in hindsight, it was no harm for them. Kerry have had a little bit more, what would I call it, blips, or yeah, a little bit more tests along the way. Even the league, like, they weren't exactly booming, but they still won it in the end. But I think some of the tests with Kerry, like, I suppose the way I think the championship is set up at the moment this year, it'll probably change a bit more next year, but I do think that the real stuff doesn't start till the quarter final. And if you were to ask Jack Conn or anyone else about that, or their goal still would have been to be in a good position come quarter final stage. And at the end of the day, with all the kind of, as you said, maybe lackluster performances, etc., along the way, ultimately from quarter final on, they've been exceptional, and they've looked really solid. And fellas whose form who may have been a little bit off and questionable, etc. Everyone seems to be kind of coming to the boil at a nice time, so that's important. Like, I don't think Kerry had that last year in the semi-final, and I don't think they had it the year before in the going into the Dublin game. They got there, but I still think I don't think they had enough players that were playing to their potential. So they still have a good bit more to get out of some players. And generally in an All-Ireland final it can be different guys that step up. But I do think they've a lot of guys going fairly well, and Donegal similar to that as well. So it's going to be very interesting, straight up.
I suppose we were kind of touching slightly on the kind of the new rules and things like that. I know from watching it, it's making for an unbelievable game, but I'm sure playing it is slightly a bit more chaotic.
It is, yeah, it's a brilliant game to play in, to be honest. But there's certainly a lack of control, I would say, there, particularly around kickouts and so on. So that in itself leans towards, like, just being a little bit more, yeah. There's momentum is a big thing. If you can kind of get it and hold it, it makes a huge difference. But you can lose it quite quickly as well. But it's a faster game, and it's obviously a more high-scoring game. By and large, I think like practically all the rules have been a really kind of good addition, really, in fairness. And I think it's exciting for everyone, for coaches, for players. At county level, teams are probably starting to figure it out maybe now towards the end of the championship. I think it'll be next year before teams really, figure it out and have time to kind of work a little bit more on it or whatever, because there was, rules were kind of, I won't say most of them came in to start, but there was a little bit of tweaking here and there. From a club point of view now, it'll be interesting to see how it goes at club level when championships kick off, because, leagues and stuff are fine, but it's from championship point of view that you'll really kind of road test the rules. But I think it seems to have been good anyway so far, and I'm enjoying it. I think it's been a right good refresh or reboot that we needed. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I suppose we have a couple of audience questions there as well, Fionn. We've did the strength and conditioning requirements for county level change much from your kind of early years, even to, I suppose, club football now?
um, yeah, that's a good question. I would say yes. So my last year playing was 2018. So that's like 7 years ago, maybe we'll say. So like from when I started to now, like we would have obviously, strength and conditioning would have been part. And when I started, it was starting to get a little bit more serious around then. But I would say it's gone up another level, couple of levels at this stage, insofar as the individuality of what fellas are doing and the consistency, and yeah, like you can even see it in players' physiques and so on. Even for example, when the season finishes, that type of thing, like that, players will get time off, whatever. But well before they go back playing with Kerry, they'll be, you know, doing plenty of work away from the setup as such and so on. So that's one area. And then has it fed into club level? Absolutely, it has. Yeah, for sure. And it's probably more important now at club level, because a little bit like the intercounty season, you're talking whenever club championships kick off again soon. It's very very quick and fast. Sorry, the game is faster and probably a little bit more demanding this year. And number two, you're going to have games back to back, so it's demanding, and as much as anything, it's probably kind of injury prevention you're trying to look at. But um, it has evolved, is the short answer to that, and it has for the better, I would say, really.
I suppose the second one then was how did you find the role change of defenders when playing in a system in comparison just to traditional 15v15?
How did I find? Hmm. Yeah, I don't think of all between club and county. I don't think I'm involved in teams where it's huge amount of like system. Like it's kind of a vague word that's used at times, but like I don't think I've ever been in a team where it's crazily defensive. Or if we ever did try it and experimented, whether it's club or county, I don't think it would have totally suited it. So it's not to say that it's always 15 on 15 all the time, but um, I wouldn't be as experienced, to be honest, from a playing point of view anyway, with what I would call a major system. Like, unless they want to kind of delve into that system idea a little bit more, but I would say generally a little bit more experience with kind of traditional defending, with maybe a little bit of support here and there, would be what I would be used to.
Yeah, I suppose before we finish up, I kind of the last kind of few of the lives and things we've done with former players and things like that, we got them to kind of name out their sevens team of players they've either played with Kerry or club football. So I know it's a tough one now, but if you could give a Sevens team of your own players, who would you go with?
Jeez, you should have given me a heads up on this. Sorry, what are the rules, or not the rules, but what are the so club and county?
Club and county, yeah,
Club
I
and
suppose,
county.
yeah.
Right. I should think my formation first. I have a fly goalie, I suppose. Anyway, I'll come back in the goalie. I might shaft the normal goalie and put someone in that can get up and down the field. Johnny Buckley used to be a good goal before and could go out the field. I might put him in instead of one of the lads.
Yeah. Whatever you
Purely.
think. Yeah.
Backs, I suppose you're talking about someone like Mark O'Shea, maybe Ian Mahoney. I'm gonna go midfield, one midfield probably, I suppose. Dave Moran maybe.
Mhm.
Johnny's in goal. Put Brian Looney and Gooch maybe in the forwards. I'm going random enough, simply because Looney would be sensational. Let him get at what you call it, at sevens level. That's just completely off the top of my head now. I'm not even thinking too much.
To be fair, I suppose Brian would be able to bomb up and down the field fairly well, I think.
Sevens would suit him, yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that now, yeah.
One more of the kind of questions that came in actually there was who in the current Donegal squad would you least like to mark?
I think Gallon when he's hot will be quite will be a handful to handle. Like when he's hot, like I mean, his consistency has been a little bit. I don't think he's there with that yet, but when he's on it, he certainly would be a handful. I'd say, like Michael Murphy probably wouldn't suit me per se, but he would suit other players. You know what I mean? Different players, different strokes, but yeah, they're kind of guys. Like Michael Langan is a good midfielder. Obviously, wouldn't be out around the middle necessarily for me, but I would kind of think he'd be. You'd have your hands full with him as well. But Kieran Moore that from wing forward looks like a really kind of lively and dynamic operator. He'd be quite good. Probably the position he's playing in now, you could nearly say, um, he's getting into getting up and down the field quite a bit there. So he'd also be a handful, I would say.
Thanks very much for that, Fionn. I suppose final prediction for Sunday.
I think Kerry will win, maybe 2 points, but I think it'll be really close. And obviously, if Donegal win, I wouldn't be surprised. It's a really close one to call because they're so well matched. Two best teams, probably I would say the most exciting All-Ireland final in a while. I think maybe I'm a bit biased because we're in it, but it seems to be the fact that the game has just turned a little bit more this year, and both teams are playing a kind of exciting or attractive style of football versus maybe this time last year if it was the same team. So with that, I'm kind of hoping for a cracker, and I do think Kerry hopefully will just get out on top.
Hopefully, I hope you're right as well. Look, Fionn, thanks very much for coming on this evening. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you later. And best of luck with everything with Crokes this year.
No problem. Thanks, David.
Cheers,
All the
Fionn.
best. Bye.
So everyone, that was it. That was Fionn Fitzgerald there, former Kerry All-Ireland winning captain. Obviously, he gave the prediction there that Kerry would hopefully win by 2 points on Sunday. So look, from my own point of view, myself and Kieran will talk to you about it on Monday. Look, it's great. It's going to be a great final. Hopefully, in my own view, as I said, hopefully Kerry do it. But look, we're in for a great final. We're still doing the combined 15. I think so far the voting is fairly one-sided, which is to be expected, of course. I think the only Kerry man we have in there at the moment is Gavin White, which is probably the best one to have at the moment. So hopefully Gavin White will be lifting Sam on Sunday. And look, we'll talk to you all later. Thanks very much for tuning into the two lives this week. Myself and Kieran on Monday and myself and Fionn tonight. So Thanks very much, lads, and up the kingdom.